All right, everybody. So here we are after round 4 of the URC season, where we've just gotten through the weekend of all the latest games. Some great games to get through. So we'll start with yourself, Enda. Tell me a bit about how the Irish provinces got on this weekend.
Well, Connacht had their first loss, unfortunately, of the season. They went down 25-22 away to Edinburgh. But I have to say that they put in a pretty good performance. There wasn't a massive drop off despite all the rotation in their squad. And they also crucially got a losing bonus point, which could definitely stand them towards the end of the year. And I just have to say, like, how it just reminded me of how competitive the URC is. Even this year compared to last, like there are 5 points the difference between, Bulls in first place and Ospreys in 10th. It just shows you the strength of this league. I know we keep going on about it, but I just, like, for me, like, I think Connacht are in about 4th or 5th now, even though they've got just one loss in the season. I think that just shows the strength of this league that we love.
Yeah,
do you want to jump in there?
Benetton aren't top despite being unbeaten, and we'll come to Benetton later. But it was a former Munsterman who brought Connacht their tears, wasn't it, this weekend?
Yeah, and it was in the last play of the game. Yeah, Ben Healy just made a lovely little drop goal. So it was level 22-all. And he really executed really well. And he was so cool, calm, and collected in his celebration. He barely celebrated. It was just like job done for him. He's been a massive, I think, addition to that Edinburgh side. I think he's really, I just think he's really developed into a serious operator. Not that he wasn't in Munster, but obviously I think he's probably going to get more game time now and more exposure over in Edinburgh. So it was a nice way for them to win it. Tough for me as a fan watching. But it was a great game overall. And again, like I know I mentioned it, but there was a lot of rotation in that Connacht squad. But I also think it shows, and this wouldn't have been the case in previous seasons, that the amount of strength that's in Connacht squad now, how they could rotate so much and still come away with a pretty decent result away to Edinburgh. And like Edinburgh was very cold, so it did make handling conditions quite difficult at times. So Connacht, a lot of time they threw some lovely passes, they made some lovely breaks, they ran their usual set plays and everything, but just maybe that last final pass let them down, or they lost the ball in contact, or they went too wide and didn't have the support there. And I have to say that Edinburgh were very good in defence, and they're very strong over the ball. And also I think Duhan van der Merwe potentially is maybe the main reason why they won this game. Like after round 4, like in round 4, he was the highest he had the highest stats in terms of defenders beaten, and with 8. So I think he kind of really did make the difference. But yeah, look, Connacht's interesting now that they're heading to Durban next weekend, which should be really interesting to take on the Sharks and win the Sharks. Like, talk about pressure. I think for the Sharks, it's a new coaching ticket. We all know that they're backed by a massive financer behind the team. So there is going to be massive pressure on them to put in performance. And Connacht have named a pretty strong team. Hansen didn't make it, nor did Bundy, because of injuries, minor niggles that they have. But Finlay is in the team. So Connacht are going over there, I think, pretty confidently. So I can't wait to see that game. And of course, 2 other Irish provinces were in action this weekend. Munster lost to Ulster. Now that was a home game for Ulster. It finished 21-14. Like all interprovincial games, or most interprovincial games, it was quite close. Munster scored, quite early. Craig Casey had a strong game, got in for a brace of tries. But overall, Munster were very inaccurate. They were sloppy. They're ill-disciplined. Their ruck wasn't fast enough. So I think it's, you could tell in Roundtree's interview after the game, he was quite peeped off. Like he was not happy with this, and he said as well that was reflected in the change room. So I think it will potentially stand to Munster in the long run. Like this one's going to hurt. But I think it's also good for Ulster to get that win after the disappointment against Connacht. But yeah, roll on the next weekend's games. I know Leinster were in action as well. They beat the Dragons, but I might leave you to discuss that one, mate.
Do I have to? It's one of those games, like, I'll tell you what it felt like to me. It felt like everybody who was watching the game knew what result was coming, and everybody on the pitch, from the players, like the coaches, the referee, everyone knew what result was coming. And then it hosed down with rain, and then it was just kind of like and it really, like, partially through the second half, it was like, should we just call it, guys? Because I think Leinster had the bonus point wrapped up, and it was like, should we just leave it here, guys? Because we know what's happening here. Dragons, yeah, what can you say? It's Dragons against Leinster. We all knew how it was going to go. Sheehan had a really good match from hooker. I think he was on for a large part of the game. He captains Leinster as well, I'm pretty sure. But from a Dragons point of view, it went how you would expect it. I'll tell you what did happen, though. So two things. Firstly, there was a lot of comms issues between the referee and the TMO, which Di Flanagan, the Dragons coach, was not happy about. And it is kind of like slightly unacceptable, really. I don't know. Everyone likes to blame the league and things, but it might just be the facilities at Rodney Parade. Honestly, that there was some kind of electrical issue, because I presume they use local communications. I don't know. So if someone wants to re-educate me on that, that's fine. And I'll freely admit to being wrong. But that seems more likely to me than it being in any way the league's fault. Although I do think it is on the league to come out and say what happened and to say what steps are being made to not make that mistake again. And then the other thing which happened was Taine Basham's red cards for his elbow shot on Ross Byrne, which was just the dumbest thing. And like Warren Gatland was in the crowd for it, and I think Di Flanagan came out and said, like, if you read between the lines, it was like, mate, you are not going to play for Wales if you do stuff like that. So you could see it was a cheap shot. He did it on purpose. You see, you can't prove intent with things. Like, if he wasn't trying to do that, what was he trying to do? And I saw it in real time, and I was like, oh, if the TMO spotted that, it's serious trouble. And it was serious trouble. Anyway, two other Welsh games then that I'll quickly cover before I cover another Welsh game after that. Ospreys lost at home to Glasgow. I believe it was a slightly rotated Glasgow, as evidenced by the fact they had Duncan Weir at 10 playing the full 80. But Glasgow came out on top. 28 of Glasgow's points came from rolling mauls. So I think that tells you where, obviously, they had their strength on it. Ospreys fans were particularly gutted about it because they felt that the Ospreys dominated every aspect of the game apart from maul defence. And that's what's cost them in the end of the day. The Ospreys brought back a lot of their internationals, and it's just gutting now. So the Ospreys have got, in their next game, they've got the Dragons, and the Dragons seem to manage to be able to give the Ospreys a game for whatever reason. And then they've got another derby against the Scarlets to that. So the Ospreys are going to start to feel the pressure, I think, because if they want to qualify for the playoffs, which I still stand by, that I think their squad is easily good enough to make the playoffs. If they lose these next two games, their season's in tatters. So that's kind of from an Ospreys point of view. Cardiff hosted the Bulls. Bulls I've tipped to be champions this year, and it wasn't an incredible game. And I think, again, Cardiff fans are a little bit disappointed. It finished 18 points to 12, so Cardiff got the losing bonus point, which I think, I personally think that result will age well. I think come the end of the season, they'll look back at that and go, oh, actually, that was quite a decent result, because I think the Bulls are going to be pretty unstoppable this season. But apparently, Cardiff fans are a bit downbeat about, they just couldn't execute. They had territory, they had possession, but they kept like dropping the ball and knock-ons and things. So they felt that they could have gotten something out of the game. But like I said, I don't think you can criticize them too harshly for a loss at home to the Bulls. And then there's the Scarlets, who lost at home by 1 point to the Lions. So I did my Scarlets pod on this link, pop-up banner. And I was gutted after this game. I was gutted. So I do instant match reactions for the Rap YouTube channel. And I just hit record, say what I think, and upload it. For this one, I did 3 takes, and I threw the first 2 away because I just got too angry, and I didn't want to be like a ranting fan or something on social media. I didn't want to be that guy. But essentially, it was, in my opinion, the best performance that Welsh Regions put in so far this season. And Steph Evans did a terrible kick, and it got charged down, and the Lions scored, and it's a smash and grab. But the Scarlets pack was phenomenal in that game. Ryan Elias was unbelievable, and for me, really said, no, I am Wales's first choice hooker. And something like his stats, like 59 meters carried for a hooker, is just stupid from 14 carries and 5 defenders beaten. I could list them all. 3 dominant tackles. Yeah, so I was gutted as a Scarlets fan. So all 4 regions lost. All 4 were playing at home on the same weekend. Not a great look, although I would throw the context into that 2 of the teams they were playing were Bulls and Leinster, and I would expect at least one of those to be in the final of the URC this season. Scarlets should have beaten. Um, Scarlets should have been beaten the Lions. It was a 1-point defeat, and I think we were the better team. And obviously, the Ospreys lost to Glasgow, which could have happened. Glasgow are a very good team. So for people getting excited about, oh my God, all 4 Welsh regions lost at home on the same weekend, I think that's just a feature of the fact that the URC now, the home and away fixtures aren't alternated like they were in like the double round robin years of the league format. Now with the touring and things, you do often have a lot of home games grouped together and then do a load of away games grouped together. So I think it's just a bit of a fluke, to be honest. I don't think there's anything deeper than that about it. Anyway, so a result that I know you were very excited about, mate, was one of the 2 wins the Italian sides got. So this was the first weekend ever where both Italian teams won at home in the URC on the same weekend. And yeah, Zebre got the job done against the Sharks. What did you make of this one?
It was just fabulous, like just to see, like it's mad that we mentioned this on our last recording. We said Zebre are going to beat, they're going to beat somebody, they're going to beat somebody big, and I think like we know that the Sharks aren't in a great place right now. They're rebuilding and whatnot. But to see the Zebre do it like that, and just to see the scenes after the game, to see what it meant to not only the players but to the fans as well, I think that's huge, and it's just massive for this league. Like they're sitting in 11th place, like how many points they ahead of? Like they're ahead of the Sharks, the Dragons, Scarlets, Cardiff, the Lions. Like it's incredible. I think how they're doing this season. And I think there's more in them as well. Do I think they'll finish the top 8? No, but I think they'll finish in mid-table, in and around that mark, which is brilliant because they've been so poor for so many seasons. Let's call them out on that. But that's exactly what this league needed. And you don't because I like the URC so much. I hate to see any team do so poorly like the Sharks are. I don't like to see a team that has been winless so far, especially a team that's only recently joined. Well, recently enough in the last couple of years has joined this expanded competition, so I don't like to see that. But it's just brilliant for Italian rugby, and to see Benetton as well, and to see yet another great, like to see Benetton beat the Stormers was something else. And again, we touched on last week, to see the crowd at the game as well looked like there's another sellout. That's really important as well,
Yeah, it
I
was
think,
great
for
crowd,
this
wasn't
league. Yeah. And again, like you touched on, I think it's just like it was one, like I think context is key. Like it'd be easy to be a negative Welsh rugby fan to go, look, all the Welsh sides lost this weekend. This is just typical. But again, when you give that context to the opposition and the cut in funding and everything, they're actually not doing, I don't think, overly bad this season. Like they're compared to the budget of some of the other teams, etc., etc. But then again, you look at the Italian teams doing well, and you look at the Bulls. Like just looking at this league table now just gets me excited. You got the Bulls in first, you got Leinster in second, you got the Glasgow Warriors in third, you've got Ulster in fourth, Connacht in fifth, and then Benetton in sixth. Like it's not like there were weekends last year where it's the top 4 Irish teams, the top 4 provinces, the top 3 Irish teams up there dominating, and now that there are various different teams of various different countries playing various different styles. Of rugby, which is just brilliant, I think, for this league. But yeah, brilliant game, and yeah, delighted for the Italians.
Yeah, Stormers will probably be a little bit disappointed and maybe shocked to be losing to Benetton, but it just goes to show the strength of the league. And they've got a repeat of last year's final, haven't they, against Munster next up?
Yeah, in Thomond Park. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't see them coming out on top on that one.
But this is the kind of fixture that makes the URC so great, isn't it? Like, oh my God, Munster playing the Stormers at Thomond Park. This is the kind of thing that really gets you out of bed in the morning. Anyway, so that's our URC roundup, best league as always. Let's just go through the rest of the club results for the rest of the weekend. So I just quickly want to acknowledge that just before we came on air, the WRU reports into the misogyny and homophobia and things, allegations all came out, and there's some pretty unpleasant stuff. Especially disappointing for me is some of the attitudes at the top of the WRU towards the women's team and things like that. It's just completely unacceptable. I was going to say in this day and age, in any day and age. There's nothing really to debate or discuss about it. It's obviously, I just hope that the people who were the perpetrators of that are no longer in their roles. And that's really all that there is that I can say. Anyway, into some of the other results. So there was an international gameplay today, which I've not seen anybody talk about, which was Hong Kong beat Germany. Okay, I don't know why they're playing on a Tuesday, but crack on, guys. All power to you. Hong Kong won 29-16. I think that's interesting because with the new 2014 World Cup, Hong Kong have got a route to be there. And if you look at the world rankings, they look like they may be a contender. I think they're around the mid-20s in terms of rankings. So it's worth keeping an eye on Hong Kong. Germany, obviously playing Rugby Europe, doesn't look like they're going to be challenging for a World Cup spot anytime soon, sadly. Anyway, did you catch much of La Vila Cup?
I didn't catch much of it, but I have seen the highlights. So USA beat Brazil 48-3, and with all 8 scorers being players who made their debut this year. So that was an interesting fact. And USA will now play Spain, who beat Canada 42-20. So that game is on next weekend. Did you want to just touch on Portugal's new coach? Has he already quit?
Well, yeah. So this is something that's been going around. Obviously, we've got a couple of wonderful followers like Francisco and Nuno, who are Portuguese, and they were sharing the news that Portugal's new coach, who I believe was only appointed straight after the World Cup, has quit already, and it's something to do with the amount of time that he would get with the team. I believe that's the reason behind it. I'll correct us on the Friday Bet for sure if that's not quite right, but yeah, it's not a great look that he's not coached a single game and he's already out the door. Whether, I don't know what's gone wrong there. Apparently, Portugal have gone through a significant number of coaches in the last few years. So whether there's something wrong at the union or something, I don't know. But yeah, there's something's not gone right in the interview process. There's obviously something that the coach felt was given assurances to him that have not been met. Or there's a big misunderstanding on his side. Obviously, we're not there to talk about it. Top 14 then. So I'll just quickly talk through the top 14 because I watched quite a lot of this over the weekend. Not all the games are a thrill a minute, but it is engrossing. So Pau is still top, well, joint top with Stade Francais. I think Stade Francais had top on points difference, but I'm going to claim that Pau are top because that's more fun. They beat Bordeaux at home. Bordeaux normally a side challenging for the playoffs in the top 14, so that's a fantastic result. Toulouse brought back their big guns to play Perpignan, so Dupont came off the bench. They had all like Malvaca and stuff. They had 3 fullbacks in the starting 15. They had Capuozzo, the Italian fullback, on the wing. They had Jaminet at fullback, and they had Ramos at 10. And they played some sexy rugby. It was great to watch. It finished 43-34, palindromic scoreline, always fun. But I tweeted, like, how stupid is it that one club in France has got Jaminet and Ramos? That makes no sense. And then reports have come out in the last 24 hours that Jaminet looks set to move to Toulon mid-season. So I guess someone heard me, and I think that's probably a great move for all parties. I think I can't remember his name now. I think the Argentinian fullback who played fullback at the World Cup for Argentina also plays for Toulouse. Like, why do you need so many fullbacks, guys? What's going on? But yeah, Jaminet to Toulon, like I said, probably the best move for everybody. Toulon themselves beat Racing. Everyone's probably seen clips from this game because Henry Arundel scored a hat-trick on his Racing 92 debut. Fair play to him. Incredible gas to get past the defence and just outstrip all the people chasing him. A couple of questionable moments in defence, but put that down to being a beginner. But yeah, Toulon also played some really nice stuff. Their Fijians really tore it up in this game, so that was cool to watch. Anyway, ProD2 Vaughan lost for the first time but stayed top. They lost to Colombiers. Rouen, Normandy still bottom. So I'm going to make sure I say this right. Sam Le Pompier. So Sam Davis, they're calling him Fireman Sam, but in French it's Sam Le Pompier. He is currently the top point scorer in the ProD2 with 120 points. So that's just a nice bit of taffs abroad for you. Anyway, what happened in the Prem this week, mate?
Yeah, I think we all saw the clip of Finn Russell in the shed, which I think was just I've seen some people come out against him. I thought it was just brilliant, and to see him do it,
friend
and to see
didn't
the little,
like it, but I have to say,
no, he didn't, and to see the little smile on his face as well. And look, Bath won. Like, if they hadn't won, I think he would have massively regretted that. But
so when he shushed him, it wasn't for the winning kick. It was they were still losing at the time that he shushed them. So Finn.
Yeah, only Finn Russell could pull that off. What else happened? Quins beat Tigers, who are having quite a poor season, really, and Falcons are still winless after getting battered by Sarries. I think it was 50-something points Sarries put up on them. Falcons having a really tough start to this season. In the Scottish Super Series, Heriots had a home semi-final against 4th place Stirling, but picked a shock defeat. A shock defeat, and Stirling will now play Ayrshire in the final. And then in the Energia AIL, I should say, in Division 1A, Clontarf are still on top with 5 wins from 5 games, and Dublin University are sitting bottom of the log with no wins so far this season. In terms of the Rugby Europe Super Cup, which, as we touched on last week, it was the second weekend of this comp, and Black Lion and Tel Aviv both are 2 from 2 in Group A, and Romanian Wolves and Brussels Devils also 2 from 2 in Group B. Bohemian Rugby Warriors are the new team, and they are taking some big scorelines at the moment, unfortunately. How about the Welsh Prem, mate?
Yeah, so it was a big clash between Llandovery and Pontypool. It was a top of the table clash. Llandovery came out on top, which is good for the fans in West Wales. They've now got Newport, who are newly second in the league, at home. Not this weekend, I don't think the weekend after. So that is another huge game. If Llandovery beat Newport, then they will be at least, I think, 9 points clear at the top. So they'll be sitting pretty. But yeah, super exciting at the top of that league. Unfortunately, Neath are still winless, and Carmarthen Quins, a big historic team, are not doing so well either. Anyway, what's coming up in the TV guide this weekend?
Yeah, so we'll have our usual guide out in the mini pod on Friday, and we'll also have it on our Twitter page. But I just wanted to also touch on the women's Premiership Rugby. That's starting this weekend. It's starting on Saturday, and TNT have announced that they've signed a broadcast deal with the competition. We don't know for how long. It's defined as a multi-year deal. It's starting, as I said, this Saturday with Bristol v Sale at 12:30, and that game has been shown on TNT Sports, and it'll also be streamed on Discovery Plus and on Now in Ireland. As part of the deal, they're going to show 20 games per season, 1 game per weekend. So there'll be both linear and streaming coverage there, which I think is important. There has been no free-to-air coverage announced yet. The Telegraph is reporting that discussions are ongoing. So it'll be interesting what happens there, but I think that will be more so for the knockout stages. And interestingly as well, the clubs will maintain their right to live stream matches that are not shown by TNT. Again, that was according to the Telegraph. So a pretty interesting deal. There was, that some people have come out and said it's potentially a bad move for women's rugby. Personally, I think it's a good move. It now means that there's more rugby union on TNT Sports, which can only be a good thing, because as we know, it's a fragmented market. And also, I think you'll get people, who will normally tune into TNT Sports on the weekend to catch on the men's game. They will now naturally just come across some more women's games. So I think that can only be a good thing. And you'd imagine that this deal is worth more money than a free-to-air deal as well. So first game kicks off
as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so that first game kicks off, this Saturday. So we'll include that in our guide for the weekend. But apart from that, I think that pretty much wraps it up for me. Any final words, mate?
Nothing from me, mate. Great show, great podcast as well that we did with Nasha. Super excited for people to hear that. And more of the same in the coming weekend, please.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.